Hamas strikes the wrong jet. You won't believe what just went down in Gaza's skies. Hamas militants spotted a fighter jet slicing through the air and thought, "This is our moment." But they made the most epic mistake in recent military history. What you're about to find out goes way beyond a simple tactical error. We're diving into a crazy escalation in the Middle East, where every move can spark consequences you can't even imagine. To get the full picture here, we first need to understand what's really happening in Gaza's skies. Israel isn't just using any old planes in its operations. They're flying one of the most advanced fleets of F-35s in the world, known locally as a deer. These aren't your average jets. Each F-35 costs around $80 million and represents the peak of American military tech. They're basically invisible to radar, capable of hitting targets hundreds of miles away and heading back to base without ever being detected. To give you an idea of just how advanced they are, these jets can run totally silent missions, coordinating precise strikes while staying completely stealthy. On the other side, you've got Hamas, whose arsenal is way more limited. Their anti-air missiles are, at best, outdated junk compared to what they're up against. It's literally David versus Goliath. Except this time, Goliath has an impenetrable armor and laser weapons. The wild part is that right after the October 2023 attacks, the US rushed to provide emergency upgrades for Israel's F-35s. New capabilities were installed in just weeks, turning those jets into even deadlier versions than their original specs allowed. Hamas trying to fight back against this insane air dominance says a lot about where they stand right now. When you can't compete technologically, you gotta bet on creativity and surprise. But even then, the odds are basically zero. Israel's F-35s haven't just been used in Gaza, they've carried out missions all the way in Yemen, over 1,700 kilometers away. That shows the insane reach of these jets, especially after Israel modified them with extra fuel tanks. These planes can strike deep inside other countries and still get home safe without being picked up by air defense systems. Things get even crazier when you realize these F-35s have already been used to intercept cruise missiles mid-flight, a capability almost nobody thought stealth fighters could pull off. The versatility of these machines is completely rewriting the rules of modern air combat. But the story doesn't stop there. What we're seeing now is an escalation way beyond just air clashes. Israel announced a military operation of a scale never seen before in Gaza, demanding full evacuation of entire areas. This isn't just another military campaign, it's a total overhaul of Israel's strategy in the region. You can get a sense of the magnitude by the numbers. We're talking about the movement of hundreds of thousands of people, a total blockade of supplies heading into northern Gaza, and an air campaign involving not just F-35s, but Israel's entire air force working in coordination. What makes this operation even more significant is its timing, syncing up with critical political developments. While bombs are falling in Gaza, Israel is also facing an unprecedented international diplomatic crisis, with countries all over the world questioning its actions and methods. Amid this explosive backdrop, statements from Israeli leaders started sending shockwaves across the globe, literally making diplomats jump out of their seats at the UN General Assembly. Israel's UN ambassador straight up called recognition of a Palestinian state theater, a remark that triggered furious reactions from world leaders. Some even questioned if Israel had completely lost its diplomatic sense. But hold up, because that was just the start of the controversy. This wasn't just one diplomat having a bad day. Israeli officials have been more and more blunt in their positions, with some going as far as saying flat out that there will be no Palestinian state, words that felt like a slap in the face to decades of international negotiations. Basically, they declared that 30 years of diplomacy was a total waste of time. It's like they were saying, forget Oslo, forget Camp David, forget everything, we'll handle this our way. The timing of these statements isn't random, it's pure calculated strategy. They came right as Israel was ramping up its military operations and facing growing global pressure. It's like the country was making it crystal clear it won't back down, no matter the diplomatic cost, even if that means burning bridges with longtime allies. The boldness of those statements shocked even seasoned Middle East watchers. European diplomats described them as diplomatically suicidal, while Arab reps called it unprecedented arrogance. Some analysts even compared Israel's current stance to that of a nation acting above international law, a comparison that made a lot of people in Washington very uncomfortable. And in the middle of this already tangled mess, a new controversy popped up, pouring even more fuel on the fire. Israel accused Hamas militants of attacking UN teams trying to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza. If true, that would be a major violation of international humanitarian law. UN teams are supposed to be neutral in this conflict, focused only on delivering medical supplies, food, and basic necessities to Palestinian civilians. Attacking those teams not only puts humanitarian aid at risk, but also breaks fundamental principles laid out in the Geneva Conventions. What makes this even worse is the timing. With Gaza under total blockade and intense military operations happening at the same time, every single aid truck literally means the difference between life and death for thousands of people. Israel says it has proof of coordinated attacks against humanitarian convoys, including intercepted communications and satellite images. On the other hand, UN officials have challenged those accusations, demanding independent investigations and safe passage for their teams. The international response has been quick and, in many cases, harsh. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres publicly warned about Israel's growing international isolation. His words carried extra weight, since he usually sticks to moderate diplomatic tones. Countries that have historically supported Israel started voicing serious concerns. The Netherlands, for example, made the unprecedented decision to suspend delivery of spare parts for Israel's F-35s, citing possible complicity in human rights violations. That decision is especially significant because it could impact the operational readiness of the very jets we talked about earlier. And it's not just Europe. Several South American nations have stepped up their criticism too, with some even pulling their ambassadors from Tel Aviv in protest against Israel's operations in Gaza. As a direct reaction to Israel's actions, multiple countries sped up their official recognition of Palestine as a state. That diplomatic move is a tectonic shift in international relations in the Middle East, with consequences that go way beyond the region. Recognition isn't just symbolic. It gives international legitimacy to the Palestinian cause and opens up new diplomatic channels that could shape future peace talks. More importantly, it sets legal precedents that could be used in international courts. Israel has reacted furiously to these recognitions, calling them a reward for terrorism and threatening diplomatic retaliation. Its response has been so intense that some diplomats are calling this the worst foreign relations crisis Israel has faced since its founding. Back to the military side. Israel's heavy use of F-35s in Gaza is basically turning the conflict into a real-world testing lab for this American tech. Every mission generates valuable data on how these jets perform in dense urban combat, info that's going to be crucial for future developments. Israel's F-35s have already shown off capabilities even the Americans didn't expect, like intercepting missiles and coordinating multi-platform strikes in real time. These breakthroughs are rewriting military doctrines worldwide. At the same time, Hamas has been trying out new tactics to counter this technological edge. Their chances of success are slim to none, but every attempt forces Israel to adapt and might even expose hidden vulnerabilities in these high-tech systems. But behind all this advanced tech and complex diplomacy lies a devastating human reality that can't be ignored. Civilian casualties in Gaza have blown past all initial projections, creating a humanitarian crisis of historic proportions. Reports from international organizations say over 42,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 2023, including more than 13,000 children. Those numbers represent shattered families, broken dreams, and an entire generation traumatized by what they've lived through. On Israel's side, the scars from the October attacks are still raw. The 1,200 victims of those initial attacks and the more than 250 hostages taken created a national trauma that directly shapes current political and military decisions. The global reaction has been mixed, reflecting different geopolitical interests and strategic calculations. The U.S., Israel's main ally, is in a tough spot, trying to balance its traditional support with growing domestic and international pressure. Arab countries that recently normalized ties with Israel through the Abraham Accords are rethinking their stance, with some freezing cooperation projects while the war drags on. That rollback marks a major setback in recent regional peace efforts. The European Union has shown deep internal divisions, with some countries pushing for tougher positions against Israel, while others stick to moderate lines. That European split has limited the bloc's ability to exert real influence over the conflict. Multiple international investigations are already underway, including cases at the International Court of Justice and special UN commissions. One independent UN panel has already determined that both Hamas and Israel committed war crimes, but went further by describing Israel's actions as possible genocide. Israel flat out rejected those findings, accusing the investigators of being close to Hamas and of holding anti-Semitic biases. That reaction shows just how wide the gap has grown between Israel and international institutions. And these investigations aren't just academic. They could lead to international sanctions, arrest warrants for political and military leaders, and legal precedents that shape how future conflicts are handled worldwide. While the F-35s keep flying over Gaza and diplomatic battles rage in international halls, one fundamental question remains unanswered. What will the future of this region look like once today's hostilities end? Israel's statements that there will be no Palestinian state clash directly with the growing wave of international recognition of Palestine, creating a deadlock that could take decades to resolve. This isn't just a fight over land, it's about the very right to national existence. The next generation of Palestinians and Israelis will grow up with the memories of this conflict, and those memories will shape how they see peace, security, and coexistence. What's happening today isn't just about the present, it's about the legacy being passed down to future generations. Hamas trying to take down Israeli F-35s shows way more than just an uneven military clash. It symbolizes the desperation of a movement trapped against the most advanced technology on Earth, while chasing political goals that feel further and further away. This story reminds us that in modern warfare, technological superiority can dominate battlefields, but it doesn't necessarily win hearts and minds. While Israel showcases impressive military might, it faces growing diplomatic isolation and rising questions about the proportionality of its actions. The future of the Middle East won't be decided only by who's got the most advanced weapons, but by who can actually build lasting bridges toward peace. While F-35s slice through the skies and missiles rain down, the real battle may be playing out in UN meeting rooms and in the hearts of people who long for a more peaceful tomorrow. The question that lingers is, once the smoke clears and the guns fall silent, what kind of region will rise from the ashes of this conflict? The answer may determine not just the fate of Israelis and Palestinians, but the stability of the entire international system in an increasingly interconnected world.